Hello there. This is episode 53. I sure hope you're doing well, and I hope you're getting as excited as I am for the upcoming holidays. I absolutely love this time of year. This time of year is awesome, but it also brings out some people-pleasing tendencies in some of us. So today we're going to talk about people-pleasing and what we can do about it and what it really means for you, your self-esteem, and your confidence. So if you're a people pleaser, raise your hand. I see you. I am a recovering people pleaser too. All right, I have a few questions for you today. Is your people pleasing killing your confidence? Have you done so much for other people and with other people doing what they want to do that you don't even know what your own interests are anymore? If this is you, listen up. This podcast is for you. Welcome to the Crazy Confidence Coach podcast. I'm on a quest to help you find the most confident version of you. I help women become the most authentic version of themselves by helping them find clarity around who they are and who they want to be. My goal is to help women sift through all that noise that they have in their head about who they should be or who they shouldn't be and create a plan to be exactly who they want to be. You don't have to continue to live with anxiety, high stress, and overwhelm. You can little by little get back to a place of peace and live with more contentment than you ever thought possible. You don't have to merely survive day to day. There is a life waiting for you, thriving. Grab your coffee, your favorite colored pen, and a pad of paper because we're headed out to find your confidence today. I consider myself a recovering people pleaser. Notice I said recovering, which inherently means I've just not yet recovered fully. So how about you? Do you find yourself saying yes when you really need to say no? Do you do things that aren't your job or at home that somebody else really should be doing? Meaning it's not your responsibility, but you do it anyway because it avoids conflict. First, let me just say this. I believe most of us help out others, and that is perfectly okay. Matter of fact, it's really nice when we help out other people, right? But that's not really what I'm talking about here. If you know, you know. What makes helping out others or saying yes people-pleasing behavior? People-pleasing defined by the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it says that a person who has an emotional need to please others often and at the expense of his or her own needs or desires. So notice, it says, at the expense of his or her own needs or desires. Side note, there's nothing wrong with compromising from time to time, but when you are giving up your own needs and desires consistently, not on the occasion, but consistently, you might be a people pleaser. Think about your relationships. There are people that you choose to do things for all the time, both romantic relationships and friendships. It's especially true for moms and dads. Think about their children. They have to so many times put their children in the need compartment in a higher level than their own needs. So you'll see, especially when people have younger children, you see that a lot because obviously you're feeding, bathing, changing diapers, you're doing all these things that they can't do for themselves. So I'm not talking about that, and that is not considered people pleasing. I'm talking about the part where you have somebody who has the ability to take care of themselves and do things, but they are not doing them, or you are offering to do them over and over because you're searching for validation, approval, or maybe you're just afraid of rejection and you're choosing to forego your own needs. So is this you? Here are some signs. See if any of these apply to you, and this could be people-pleasing tendencies. Avoiding confrontation, craving validation, perfectionism, fear of rejection, neglecting your own personal needs to have or meet the needs of others. You tend to hide your true feelings or needs out of fear, having the difficulty to saying no, having low self-esteem because ultimately people-pleasing does impact your confidence. Think about those, and do you find you in any of those? Let's talk about what is the cost of those behaviors. Your time, of course, if you're taking care of other people and doing things to get validation, you're expending time and energy that you would have back if you weren't worried about doing that. Your self-respect, sometimes, not always, but sometimes your self-respect is broken by doing things you really don't want to do that maybe are not in alignment with who you are or what you want to be about. Boredom, which I include boredom because you can be doing things with other people just to do them and not really do them because you want to. And that boredom completely leads to detachment. Or the opposite, which is getting just overwhelmed by doing too much for other people. So essentially, you're just losing yourself. You lose that confidence, the essence that is actually you. You can forget what you enjoy or what you're good at by simply doing what everybody else wants to do. You stop seeing yourself in the mirror for who God made you to be. So think about this. If you're confident, you know what you're doing, what you want to do, and you assert yourself and you do you most of the time and only compromise when it works for you and for the person that you're in a relationship with, then you tend to have a balanced relationship when it goes back and forth. But if it isn't that way and you're always saying yes or looking and seeking validation and doing things for that purpose, you can just become graspy and seek to help others more and more because you can't sit still with yourself. Ultimately, that craving for validation from outside sources feeds you, and that becomes something that you have to have. So this becomes that people-pleasing tendency. So why does the people-pleasing tendency hit your confidence so hard? Because it deteriorates your belief in your ability to have your own back. Now hear me out. When you drop your own needs over and over without notice, and you do this consistently, you realize you can't depend on yourself for you. Who in the world is going to take care of you if you can't take care of you? Let me tell you something. No human will ever cover your back better than you. No one. Not a romantic interest, not a spouse, not a parent. Nobody will cover you better than you. Now, if you're spiritual and you believe you have a faith background, you might argue God, but I'm talking about humans here on earth. Nobody has your back better than you. If you're listening right now and you know that you're a people pleaser, not a big deal, but you're ready to change that about yourself. If you recognize in yourself how much you need to be validated through others by going the extra mile, or maybe you're just saying yes too much when you really want to say no, you might need or want help. I help people just like you learn how to set the boundaries, how to figure out what lights you up again and gives you joy, and create strategies for having more of what you love in your life. Now, that can be scary because people pleasers are afraid of that rejection and fear of what other people are going to say or the conflict that might come with saying no on occasion. But learning how to not be a people pleaser does not mean you have to stop saying yes or compromise activities that you do with family and friends that you don't necessarily love to do, but you're doing out of the love you have for them. But there is a huge difference with how you feel and what it does to your heart and your mind when you do things with and for people because you want to versus because you want to avoid conflict or need to feel validated. Do you see that difference? There's a slight difference there. I am absolutely a recovering people pleaser myself. I get it. You think you're going the extra mile because you're kind, you're caring, and you want to help. But sometimes if you really step back and are honest with yourself, you'll figure out and identify that you're doing it for the wrong reasons. The great news is it doesn't have to be that way, and I can help you learn how to tell the difference. So when you work with me, you learn how to say no without an explanation, which is super tough to do. Learn to set boundaries without feeling guilt or creating more conflict for yourself or for the other person. And most importantly, you learn when and how you need to take care of yourself. Not because you're being selfish or rude, but because it's what you need. And the great thing is that when you learn how to do this so you can be better for yourself, you also learn that it makes you more present, joyful, and reliable for yourself and for the other people in your life. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but for real, when you are truly there for people for the right reasons, you will have more joy. People will have more respect for you, and you will also have more respect for yourself. By doing this, you also get to say absolutely goodbye to that resentment and overwhelm and boredom in some cases, and you're going to stop seeking validation from others. It will also help you be a happier spouse, employee, and friend. I've done copious research on theories about why a person becomes a people pleaser, but I'm not going to go into that today. I'm not a therapist or a doctor, but I can tell you this. You may need help from a therapist if you have trauma or attachments that are codependent, creating, and unhealthy. That happens to the best of us. The great news is there are therapists out there that can help you with that. But if you recognize some traits here that you want to get better at understanding what you want, how you want to show up, and not be a people pleaser, I can help you. Here are some questions to ask yourself that might help you decide if you're a people pleaser. Now, when you have somebody asking you to do something or you're presented with something to do, you want to ask yourself, am I lying when I'm responding? And this is pretty a brash question, right? But gently ask yourself, am I lying? If you say yes, do you really want to say no? Do you really want to do something, or are you doing it to get validation from others? Are you saying yes to projects at work or somewhere like with family or friends that you want to say no to, but you want to impress them or be liked by them? You can ask yourself, if you weren't worried about what other people thought, would you still be saying yes? Then, am I giving up self-care that I need or want right now to say yes to someone else's needs or wants? Do I have a preference that I'm scared to share? What would I want to do if it were 100% up to me? Look, these questions are not a foolproof way to see if you're people pleasing, but they can help you get more aligned with what you want and help you not do something for the wrong reasons. You can absolutely make changes here and there that prevent you from people pleasing all the time. And honestly, I think all of us will people please on occasion. But if you are people pleasing all the time, man, like the holidays get crazy, birthdays get crazy, big events in life get really crazy because you say yes to too many things. Ultimately, when it comes down to it, when you're people pleasing, you're lying. You're not being your authentic and real self. So you get to choose to be authentic and real and choose to have your own back when somebody rejects the real you. If you say no and someone doesn't like that, it can be telling of that relationship and those friendships as coworkers, whoever you work with. If they're taking advantage of you, maybe that's your sign that maybe the relationship isn't what you thought it was. And it's okay to reframe the relationship and move on if it's necessary. And notice I said reframe. You don't have to completely let go of relationships. You can reframe them and use them differently than what they've been used in the past. You may even find out that you can develop deeper relationships that are more meaningful when you are yourself because people get to know the real you. You might find new connections or things that you really enjoy that you've never considered together before. One more thing. If you're listening to this podcast and you are shaming or blaming yourself for being a people pleaser, please don't do that. You're doing the best you can right now with what you already know how to do. Life is just one big learning curve, and that's why I do what I do, because I want to help people learn and grow into the best version of themselves. It's okay. So be who you are. Don't worry about it. But if you want to do better and you want to do less people pleasing, I'm here to help you. Once you learn about your patterns, you get clear about how you want to show up for yourself and of others, and then you create a strategy for dealing with it when life becomes kind of crazy, then it becomes super easy. You are not doomed to be a people pleaser your whole life. And if you want to be a people pleaser your whole life, go right ahead. I'm sure there are plenty of people that are very happy with that. But if you're ready to stop being a people pleaser, I've got your back. Let's get in a coaching session and help you get that strategy put together. I want to thank you for dropping in today and listening. I hope to see you next week, and I hope you have a great one. Hey, I want to thank you for listening in to the Crazy Confidence Coach podcast. I really hope you learned something valuable today. Can you do me the biggest favor? Right now, could you share the show with 3 people you know that might enjoy listening in? If you haven't already, I would greatly appreciate it if you took the time to leave a rating or review. This helps people just like you find the podcast so they can also get great fun tips about confidence. Then don't forget, come back each week and we will keep giving out little tips for how to increase your confidence, how to ditch that self-doubt and stop your negative thought patterns so you can get back to your crazy confident self and pursue your biggest dreams fearlessly. See you next week. Love you big.